Hello, I'm Dave, and welcome back to a Giant Slayers Leadership Focus. We've been talking about on our last few blogs about John Maxwell and Jim Dornan's study, Learning to Become a Person of Influence. It's been great so far. In the introduction video, we talked about influence and why we should want to become a person of influence. That leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And we have people in our lives that we want to influence in a positive way. Now, in session 2, which is actually chapter 1, we talked about integrity and what integrity was, that integrity is wholeness, it's completeness, it's honesty, and that we should live out integrity, model it for others, and lead others to that value of integrity. Then we talked about in session number 2, or actually session number 3 on chapter 2, we talked about that an influencer nurtures other people. They don't coddle people, they don't stay in the rut with them in that misery, but they're always working to nurture them and help lift them out of that rut and move them forward in their journey. And then we talked about a leader and an influencer has faith in people, and that having faith in people before they succeed is the key to building a strong relationship and being a positive influencer. It doesn't take much effort to have faith in someone after they've succeeded. So having faith in people before they succeed is a major key. Now this week we're going to talk about an influencer listens to people. Now this is a great lesson because, this is one of the areas where I've really struggled, and I've worked hard to be a better listener. I still struggle. I speak and I like to talk. I like to share the things that I know, but sometimes I have to just back myself up and intentionally listen. And every time I do, I come out a winner. Now, there's some benefits to becoming a better listener, and here they are. First off, it shows respect. Now, my wife told me some time back when I asked her, what do I need to work on? She immediately said, you don't listen very well. And I thought, well, I don't know if I agree with that or not. But then she said that, sometimes you're watching TV and you're listening to me part of the way, or you're on the computer or reading a book and you're paying attention part of the time, but you're not looking at me. And I thought, well, I've been guilty of that. She says, and every time you do that, it's telling me that whatever you're thinking about or doing is more important than I am, and I don't feel valued. And that's the last thing I wanted to do, was make her feel not valued. So I began to intentionally work on that. I've gotten better, still need to work on it, but I'm doing better. Next benefit is it builds relationships. Then it increases our knowledge. My dad used to tell me, he said, son, as long as your mouth is open, you're not learning anything. God gave you 2 ears for a reason, so won't you use them? Very good wisdom from my dad, but at the time I didn't like to hear it, but he's right. I realized that while I'm speaking, I'm not really learning. Next, when we become a good listener, it helps generate ideas. And I would suggest that you have some type of journal or some way to capture notes, especially when you're talking to someone or someone's speaking to you, that you write down what you think, those ideas that come to you, because man, sometimes those ideas can fly in like lightning and we can miss them and lose them. But if we write them down, sometimes we can build on those ideas, and who knows where that can go. Next, it builds loyalty. It's a great way to help others and ourselves. So we become knit together with the people that we really listen to and we're genuine with. So we become a better unit, a better team, a better family. In whatever situation we're in, it helps everyone. Now, I'm going to give you an acronym called LADDER, which helps us to become a better listener. Here it is. L stands for look at the speaker. Now this was an area where I had to work on, and I still struggle with this, but now I'm consciously aware that when someone's trying to speak to me or communicate to me, I'd probably need to shut the computer down, turn it away, lay the book down, turn the TV down, or maybe even turn it off, so I won't become distracted, because we can become distracted very easily. And it is not a sign of respect when we're not looking at the speaker when they're speaking to us. Next is A, ask questions. And not necessarily probing questions or interrogation questions, but ask questions to uncover the layers of what this person speaking to you is really trying to convey, because sometimes people have a hard time conveying it, and we have to ask the questions to keep the conversation moving so the person continues to open up. Next is D, don't interrupt. Many times we've got a thought or an idea or a story we want to share, and many times we find ourselves, we can't wait till the other person stops talking, and so that we think that gives us the right to jump in and speak, but that's really not respectful, and it's really not going to help that other person connect with us. And as a positive influencer, it's our responsibility to try to connect with that person, not necessarily with what we have to say and what we know, but by that person being vulnerable and opening up to us. Next, D is don't change the subject. Don't chase rabbits. Stay on subject. Stay in that person's world. Sometimes we got to remove ourselves from our world and enter that person's world. We can't disconnect, so it means don't interrupt. Next is E, emotion. Check your emotions. If you're upset, more than likely you're probably not really be a good listener. And maybe if you're really excited and bubbly, you're not really listening either. So we need to calm ourselves down, take a deep breath, and then be intentional and listen to the other person. Next is responsive listening, R. If we don't respond to what people are saying to us, that person's eventually going to go find someone else to share what they're trying to convey. And take that in a parent-child situation. Many children are trying to communicate with their parents, and sometimes parents are impatient. And I know I've been there. But if we're not listening to our children, they're going to find someone else to go share that with, especially if it's something big to them. And a lot of times they go to someone that we don't necessarily want to influence our child. So the more we can listen and be responsive to the people in our lives, the more likely they're going to come to us for advice and counsel and for whatever else they need. So keep that in mind. So John also has 4 H's that he says are important to know. And he said, first off, he said, find out what's their heart. What makes them tick? What are they passionate about? What makes them sing? What makes them sad? What makes them cry? So when we find that out, we find out a little bit about that person. Next is, what is their hope? What do they hope to be? What do they aspire to be or to do? Next is, what is their hurt? A lot of times people are sharing information with us, and maybe they're not really telling us the whole story at first, and maybe they're bringing a situation to us that they're asking us advice on or trying to get us to fix, when maybe it's a little deeper than that past incident. More than likely it is, especially if this is the first time this person's came to you with a problem. Next is how can I help? We have to make ourselves available to those we want to be a positive influencer to. We can't just shut down and wish them well. We got to make ourselves available to help them and work them through that. And that comes back to being a nurturer. Now I'm going to post 8 questions on my website in the comment section of this blog so that you can assess yourself to see how well you're doing in your listening skills. And it'll have a little score sheet there. You can kind of tally it up. But I would really love for you to leave your comments. Come back and give your comments, your ideas, your questions, whatever you want. I just really want to connect with you. I want to get to know you, because when you share with me, I get to learn too. And that's the exciting thing about this together, is when we communicate, we both win. I become a learner, you become the teacher, and vice versa. Now next week, we're going to talk about, or not next week, on the next blog in the next few days, we're going to talk about an influencer understands people. This is a great lesson too. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. So be sure to go to my website, giantslayerconsultants.com. Check out the questions on there. Leave me your comments. And until next time, go be a positive influencer in someone's life today. Have a great week. Thank you.